Good morning, everyone. I am beyond excited. I have the actual Kelly Swingler on with me today on The Bloody Truth. I mean, wow.
Thanks. I'm going to change my middle name to Actual because I love how you've been promoting it as Kelly Actual Swingler. I'm going to change my middle name.
As if there could ever be like another one, but just in case people weren't sure, yeah, I went with the actual Kelly Swingler.
Thanks. Yeah, I think I am still the only one. There are a few other Swinglers out there, but I think I am the only Kelly Swingler. Yeah.
It's quite nice. I'm the only Samantha Garstin. I think I found one
Amazing.
more in America, but otherwise, if you Google me, it's just me, which I don't know if I want to take responsibility for everything.
I think you should.
Google.
I think you should. Yeah. I think when there's just one of us, it's more fun, right?
Yeah. Easy to find.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm very excited. So I joined the HR morning boost you did yesterday with Michelle, and I was like so excited. I was like listening to you, and I was like, but wow, we're going to have a different conversation today.
We are.
Because it's not your well, it is starting to be what you're talking more and more about. Kelly has an incredible TikTok channel, which in true ADHD style, I binge watched this morning, but it's fascinating, and she's been sharing her incredible journey. Well, your cycle history is like, it blows my mind.
It's crazy,
all the way up until now. So just as a cliff notes, and maybe you can talk us through it after, but you started your periods at 10, which is mind-blowing. Whole bunch of shame that went along with that. On the pill at 12, only to struggle with years and years and years of pain just to be told it's just a period.
It's just a period, yeah. It's all just normal. It's just a period, yeah.
And then to get to 32, be diagnosed with endometriosis, and had so endometriosis, for anyone who's not sure, is where parts of the uterine lining start to grow outside, and not just localized to the womb. It can be anywhere. And if I'm right in thinking, it's on your bowels and in your pouch of Douglas as well.
Bowels, pouch of Douglas, and coming up towards my diaphragm.
That's a lot. That is a lot. So you had an endometrial ablation to help with that. And so that's where they basically disintegrate the uterine lining.
It's like a cauterization. So like if anybody's ever experienced nosebleeds, if you get too many nosebleeds, they like cauterize the inside of your nose, so it impacts the lining. So they basically minimize the lining, which is supposed to then minimize the bleeding. And that did work. But yeah, carry on, Samantha.
Well, we're getting to the piece de resistance. Like, so years of like them not having a period, only to like then, and having very bad pain during ovulation, of course. But now they're now 44, to have your periods return, but because it's now the cherry on all of that is now adenomyosis. Wow, which is I love how you described it as endometriosis, evil twin sister.
Evil twin sister, yes. It's horrible. Yeah. It's absolutely horrible, yeah.
Yeah, and so, my goodness. Like, how, like, so many questions. Like, how has this been allowed to like happen? How has this been allowed to go on so long? How is this? I mean, this is just an example, the perfect example of the gender pain gap, how that exists prevalently even today when you think that we have so much more awareness about things. The reason why I exist is in my role that I do. It's just insane. I know that was the Cliff Notes version, but I mean, talk us through it. Like,
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Do you want me to start from 10? So yeah, so I suppose very briefly. So I started periods, and again, if you want more detail of this, I'm conscious. Samantha and I have got like 24 minutes to go. So yeah, I have been talking more as Samantha mentioned on this kind of little TikTok account that I've started, just to kind of talk about my experiences. But yeah, so I started my periods at 10. I still remember that first day. Like, my parents had to literally send me to school with a note, But I was told I was not allowed to mention it to anybody else whatsoever. So at 10
Yeah.
years old, I am being told it's changing now, but at 10 years old, like there were no kind of sanitary bins, for the disposal of period products or any of that sort of stuff. There was none of that when I was 10 years old. So I was basically told you need to use teachers' toilets, but you have to ask permission every time that you need to go because we'll need to escort you. And then when you know where you're going, then you can go on your own. But you're not allowed to talk. You can't mention it to anybody else. But of course, at 10 years old, everybody wants to know where you keep going, right? And why you need to be
Yeah.
using teachers' toilets and what's going on there. But I had been specifically told I could not use the word period, could not say it to anybody that had started my periods. So I remember I was getting hounded by a couple of lads. And I remember saying to them, because I knew I wasn't allowed to use the word period, so I used the word menstruation, right? I've started menstruating because that wasn't the word period, right? And I thought I won't get in trouble for that one. Then got kind of pulled into a corner by one of my teachers. Should not be having this conversation. This is not something that was appropriate to be having a conversation about at school. So like that was the start of like initial shame, right? At 10 years old, this is not something we talk about. It's not appropriate. This is not what we do. But I had from that literal day one, the pain and the heaviness. Like I mean, I was clotting at 10 years old. Like it was awful. Pain was ridiculous. With every kind of bleed, the heavier that they were getting, the pain was becoming more unbearable, was having to take time off school. The teachers would then getting in contact with my parents to say this is affecting Kelly's attendance records, something needs to change. So I went to the GP put me straight on the pill at 12, like literally no question. Just put me straight on the pill at 12 to say this should at least regulate, because by 12 I was already having irregular cycles. So they would kind of
Yeah.
be between maybe kind of every 2 and 3 weeks, but I was bleeding for between 7 and 10 days at a time, really heavy, lots of clotting. Just told it was a normal period, was put on the pill at 12 to at least regulate to at least kind of try and regulate. But yeah, still experienced pain every single month. Bleeds were getting heavier and heavier. I mean, I was on iron tablets at maybe 14 because I was just like constantly anemic. So of course, then your energy levels are just absolutely ridiculous. But you just get told to carry on. And then I did have my sons early. I was 19 when I fell pregnant with my twin sons. I had them at 20. But literally I'd had the quill fitted. I had the quill fitted and then fell pregnant with twins. And the doctor was just like, clearly you're very fertile, aren't you? That was kind of the answer for that one. So I didn't have a quill fitted after my twins. They put me on an injection that I had to have once every month. That stopped my periods completely, but the bloating, the pain, everything that was and I was just like, I can't do this injection anymore. They then offered me the implant, but my cousin had already had issues with that, so I was like, not doing that. So they put me on another pill, another coil, this time with the pill. Is it the Marina that then has the pill that comes off it as well? They put me on that, issue after issue after issue with that. And then 32 and kind of combined really with my first burnout, I was passing out from the pain. It was so severe. Was admitted to hospital, lots and lots of hospital admittances. And they just kept saying they couldn't find anything wrong with me. We need to speak to a gynecologist, but they could never get a gynecologist to come and speak to me. They kept telling me I had water infections. They tried telling me I had STDs. They tried telling me all sorts of stuff. And then when I spoke to a gynecologist, she just said, sounds like endometriosis, we'll do you an ablation. So I had the ablation, but there were no scans. Now, I had been promised whilst on one of my hospital admittances, the one before my ablation, that they would do an MRI to really understand what was going on. Then I was told I didn't need an MRI.
Yeah.
So I had this ablation at 32 in 2013. And other than that, and I am going to say for the last 12 years, since 2013, my health has been deteriorating. Like my energy levels have been doing this at the same time that my health has been deteriorating. My ovulation pain has been getting worse every single month. And my weight has been kind of doing the opposite. So like health and energy levels have been doing this. Weight has been doing this. Ovulation pain has been doing this. And then last November, I started bleeding again really, really heavily. And from November to June this year, I had 24 bleeds, really ridiculously heavy. Got straight in contact with the doctor last November to say I've had no bleeds for 12 years. This is really painful, really ridiculous. Couldn't even get past the doctor's receptionist in the first instance, right, to speak to a doctor, because they're like, well, it just sounds like a period. And it's like, no, I haven't had a period for 12 years. Like, this does not feel normal, right? So we're having those conversations. Eventually, when I did speak to a doctor, they said, we're going to send you straight for a scan. So I went for a scan that was on the 17th of December, so the day before my son's birthday. And they basically said there were fibroids, there were cysts, there was clearly evidence of endometrial scarring, and it looked like their exact words were, it looks like the endo is back with a vengeance. But they could also see a shadow. And so they said, we then need to get you to the hospital. We need to get you an urgent biopsy and a hysteroscopy. So I had to wait for this, was kind of waiting for this all over Christmas. 30th of December, then I went for a hysteroscopy. I have now signed the campaign against painful hysteroscopy. If you have not had a hysteroscopy, it's horrific. If you have had a hysteroscopy without pain relief, it's even more horrific. So on the 30th of December, I had an appointment at the doctor's at the hospital. I had a hysteroscopy, a biopsy, another scan, and something else done that I can't remember the name of. But I was told there is they said there could be a likelihood of adenomyosis, but it doesn't look like it. And once they'd done the hysteroscopy, they said absolutely no adeno. Looks like the endo's back. You probably need another ablation. And then I was able to see another consultant. That consultant did an immediate MRI, and that consultant said to me that the adeno is rife. Like, I am like stage 4 adenomyosis. The endo is getting ridiculously worse. He said I needed an urgent hysterectomy. Wait times are 18 months. I've now got a hysterectomy in 5 weeks' time that I am paying for myself, because I can't wait for NHS, and my private medical insurance won't cover it, because as far as they're concerned, adenomyosis and endometriosis are the same thing. So adenomyosis, even though I've had a 12-year misdiagnosis, as far as medical insurance is concerned, adeno and endo are exactly the same thing, so they won't cover it. But I've basically, what the consultant said to me is you should never be given an ablation if there is any likelihood of adenomyosis. So the ablation that I was given in 2013, all of the pain that I've been having for the last 12 years and the deterioration of my health, as far as this consultant is concerned, is as a result of adenomyosis that was never spotted, that should never have been treated with an ablation. And now the only option is a full hysterectomy, but that won't help the endo, because the endo has just got even more rife, as we said, in terms of bowels coming up towards my diaphragm. So breathing, particularly around kind of ovulation time, is ridiculously painful. Bowel issues, and then my pouch of Douglas is pretty much full. But what it looks like the hysterectomy in 5 weeks' time will do is take away the pain. So adeno can also feel, I genuinely feel like I'm constantly carrying a bowling ball in my pelvis, and the pain, like it's sciatic pain going around both of my legs. And it feels like I am being stabbed constantly in both of my ovaries, but also then with this radiating pain that comes right the way down the lower part of my pelvis, right the way around into my lower back. Obviously, where I've got endo in pouch of Douglas as well, that's causing swelling. So there's lots of tension really on all of the nerves around the bottom of my spine, and then sciatic pain that's going down both sides of my legs. So at the moment, I feel like an absolute nightmare. But you stick on a bit of lippy, right? And then we get told that you don't look ill and that everything should be fine with you. So what's the problem? Because again, the last time I went to A&E, I've just seen Kirsty in the chat actually. A few months ago, so they've started me on a pro-stap injection. So I'm basically on a chemical menopause now to prep my body for the hysterectomy. And the pain had gotten so bad a couple of months ago, I could not get off the floor. And the bleeding was still really bad, but I could not get off the floor. My partner, Mick, I'd spoken to him. He's like, you need to get onto the doctors. Doctors was closed. So I called 111, and that we need to send you an urgent ambulance. I'd had 2 days where I had soiled my clothes 3 times on each day just because of the amount of bleeding. And I was changing like everything every hour. It was awful. So I rang the hospital, they rang 111. They said, we need to get you an urgent ambulance. Ambulance services then rang me back to say, we can't get you an ambulance for at least kind of 40, 45 minutes. Is there anyone that could get you to hospital quicker? So I said, yeah, my partner. So my Mick drove me. But of course, then because I'd walked into A&E, the thinking is, well, you walked yourself in, so you can't be that bad. But the pain was so severe. And again, for anybody that experiences this, if anybody, not just, kind of this, kind of adeno or endo related or PCOS, whatever, the pain that a lot of us live with, like it fundamentally changes the way in which we feel pain, right?
Yeah.
My pain for me was like at an 11. Now, for me to be at an 11, we're talking like horrific levels of pain. Like might be somebody else's like 100. And they had to give me morphine. They did give me morphine because of the way that I was kind of talking about the pain levels. Morphine didn't even touch it. Like I probably went from an 11 down to about a 7 or an 8. And that's pretty much it. But I still didn't speak to a gynecologist until the following day. They sent me home and I spoke to a gynecologist who basically then said, you do urgently need a hysterectomy, but there's 100 women on a wait list. You're just going to have to keep coming back to A&E. But you've got about 18 months to wait.
Wow.
And I just can't. This is impacting I have been mentally in the darkest place at points over this last 10 months. Like I've just wanted to end it all because the pain has been, or I've just needed to find a way to end the pain. So I'm back with a therapist, just working through a lot of the pain management and kind of my mental health. But yeah, this has impacted everything. Like I've had no quality of life since last November. It's been absolutely shocking.
And all because of a misdiagnosis and a procedure given that, for anyone that doesn't know, like adenomyosis is the uterine lining growing back into the wall of the uterus.
So it grows into the muscle.
Yeah, into the muscle.
Yeah, and it's horrific. It's honestly horrific. And even like I gave, albeit with an epidural, but like I gave birth to twins naturally, and this pain is like off the charts. Like even now, I could if I gave into it, like I'd just be constantly crying. Like even as I'm sat here now, the pain is horrific, absolutely horrific.
And that's the thing, I think, like you said, with any kind of pain management for people that struggle with any kind of chronic conditions, you get to a point where it's like you said, you kind of, what your sort of every day that you live and work with is somebody else's like level 10. And I think, especially, I mean, there's so many things within your story. I mean, right from like 10 being like shamed with your, like with sharing about your period, which I don't think has changed a lot actually. I had a client a couple of years ago whose daughter started her periods at 10 and she was told not to tell the rest of her class.
It's just like there isn't shame around it, and yet I get so angry because we are shamed around it, right? And again, for those of us, whether we kind of bleed heavily or not bleed heavily, like to constantly be thinking, and like particularly when there is a period, right? And it's there's that advert now, isn't there, like for your periods, oh my gosh moments. But it is that exact thing. Like have you soiled yourself? Have you ruined it at school? Like is somebody going to laugh at you? Is this going to happen? Like is it safe for me to stand up? Like the amount of times that I've been the last person to stand after a meeting because I've then kind of like slid off the chair, hope it, and then kind of tried to discreetly check the chair cushion to see if I've and it's just horrible. And the fact that you do that whilst changing, I mean, for many years, like I was wearing towels and tampons and having to change them literally every hour, but still having to carry on as normal as though everything was absolutely fine. And again, when you're 12 years old, when the school are telling your parents you just need to keep showing up, right, regardless of the pain, this is impacting your attendance and you just need to be there. That stuck with me all the way through work. And I can remember getting really angry about, and I was HR director, right? But I would get really angry about any woman that would ring up and be like, can't come into work today because I've got really bad period pain. And I'd be like, what? Like, it's just a period.
Yeah.
And to know that I was then passing that on to others because of like 10, 20 years of my own experience and what I was being told and how I was being dismissed. And this is part of the problem, right? Because if I had that, I don't have daughters, but if I had done the same thing, this is how we continue to pass it on through generations, and we don't break any of the stigma. We have to be the ones to break the stigma, and we have to be the ones that, so, like, there is no shame around it, which is why, I absolutely love what you're doing and will continue to advocate for it forever, in terms of cycle tracking and all of that. Like, there is so much stuff that we can learn about ourselves, and there is no stigma attached to any of this, right? It is a normal thing. I say it's normal.
Yeah.
Periods are normal. The level of pain that I have experienced and my
Not
experiences are
normal.
not normal. But to have a period every single month is normal. And we should not be shamed. There should not be stigma attached to any of that.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting. I mean, because you can only see your situation from the place you're in, but actually looking back over your whole story right from 10, it's so interesting to see how it's all played out and worked. I thought it was really interesting that you're, obviously because of those experiences that really shaped your, how you dealt with that, like in your HR career. And I mean, it is just, I think, because of that gender pain gap as well, and we're told it's just a period, it's just women's problems. But like, I have to say, like, period pain is common, but it is not normal. Like, none of that's not normal. We shouldn't be experiencing pain. Yes, there's going to be some sort of low level discomfort, heaviness, like a little crampy, like quite mild. But if you're like chugging ibuprofen and painkillers, or worse, or having to go in like with a TENS machine on, like
done all that, all the painkillers, but even the cost of that, right? Like Feminax. I mean, who the bloody hell invented Feminax, right? Which is basically just like a really expensive paracetamol, right? Just so they could like charge us 5 times the amount to say that this is the pill that you need to take on your periods every month, and it's just it's just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, absolutely, which is bad enough already. But then, and again, I don't know if anyone else has got this, but like then you end up with your period knickers, you end up with your period trousers, you end up with your period this and your period that and your period the other, right? Even like period bed sheets, right? You end up with kind of all of this stuff because it's like, I don't want to ruin the good stuff. So even that, you need like double everything to be able to kind of wear that at a certain time of the month and then wear this for the rest of the month. Like, that comes with a cost, and it comes with not just a financial cost, but again, an emotional cost, a physically, like there is a physical cost with it. All of this stuff that we have to think about takes double the energy. And then if you do have a condition like endo or adeno or PCOS or cysts or fibroids or whatever of that sort of stuff, when you're then dealing with all of the pain on top of it as well, and still being fobbed off and still being told it's normal and still being told to just get on with it, it is so exhausting, just so exhausting.
Yeah, 100%. And it's not just it's not just our ovulation, it's not just at your period, because this is like anticipatory fear of like, it's constant, the constant fear, of it's not been my lived experience, but I have clients who, and my closest friend has just been through a hysterectomy. She had a 4-inch fibroid that had been largely ignored for like 20 years. And I know she's particularly spoke about this anticipatory fear all the time, for the fear that of the pain might come, that your period might just arrive early for some reason, and you wouldn't be prepared with all your items. And where would you be? And would you, and how do you, and holidays and going away with friends, and your whole life becomes, managed, like how we do anyway, a little bit manage around our periods. But when you're at that level, it's like every decision that you make in your life is made around pain.
Yeah, totally. And like I can't remember. I mean, obviously I did for that, not even for the full 12 years, but for the most of those 12 years, like not having to worry about have I got like all of my kit with me was one thing that I didn't necessarily have to worry about. But other than that, and more so, not that I've really left the house since last November, but like, again, when you've got that heaviness and the irregularity already, I cannot remember a time from like 10 until maybe 35 that I didn't have with me in my bag. And I used to have like massive handbags. I mean, they were gorgeous designer bags, but I needed such a big bag because I needed in there to make sure that I had tampons and sanitary towels and spare knickers, and to make sure that I had wipes, and I'd always have like a like small water toilet roll or whatever, because again, like, you can't always trust public toilets for all of the stuff that are there. So I'd have literally and rolled up into you get what do we call it, like the packing cubes, the things that compress everything. So from they didn't always have those. It used to, sometimes it was just like a rolled up carrier bag, but as soon as you could kind of get those, literally I've had spare knickers, I've had pads, I've had tampons, I've had spare trousers, I've had wipes, I've had toilet roll, I've all sorts, and that's literally, that has had to be the essentials even before like my purse has gone into my bag, or my school books have gone into my bag, or my laptop has gone into my bag. That's had to be the first thing that I made sure that I pack. And then again, right, become a parent of twins, and it's like we've got to do it all over again, right? So not then, kind of, not only am I there making sure they've got nappies and milk and spare clothes and everything else, but even in the pushchair, like if I was taking them out for a walk, or we were going to a park, or we were going to a party, or kind of doing whatever, in the bottom of their pushchair was always like mum's spare clothes as well, without fail. And it's like that again is just additional stuff that you should not need to be worrying about. And yet I was still always told this is normal. Always told this is normal.
It's just laughable, really. That I just it's negligence, like pure and simple negligence on the part of like.
I mean, if we even talk about negligence, I think you said you'd kind of inhaled my little Adno TikTok account this morning, but when I got this misdiagnosis, when I got told about this misdiagnosis this year, I requested all of my medical records.
I was going to say,
and got not a lot of medical records, none of my gynae records, literally from nothing. There's apparently, I don't remember it, but I like caught my hand in a car door when I was 17, got the records for that, but I got the only gynae records that I was sent was about my sterilization in 2011. I've been asking for that for 11 years. And I got my gynae records from last November. Not one of my gynecological records can be found. Not from 10, not from 12, none of my pregnancy, none of my other appointments around any of my sterilization, not my coil fittings, nothing. Not my ablation, not my hospital admissions, nothing. All of those records have vanished. And so I put a complaint in and said, I want all of my records. The complaint initially, I should have had a response for on the 8th of August, which I still have not had a response for. They did send me a letter to say I'd get a full response by the 22nd of August. I'm still waiting, but none of my gynae records can be found. And again, what's been really eye-opening, I think, as part of this kind of Adeno account that I've started on TikTok, is I've talked about the fact that my medical records cannot be found, and hundreds of other women are saying exactly the same thing, like none, particularly where they have been misdiagnosed, or they've not been given the tests that they wanted, or they've not been given any of that stuff, their records are just vanishing, absolutely vanishing. And I kind of thought, maybe it's a bit of a one-off, but then when you start to see the fact that hundreds of women are talking about exactly the same thing, like this isn't a one-off. For whatever reason, our records are either being lost or destroyed or something. And I'd put a complaint in 2013 because of the treatment that I was experiencing. They can't even find that record. Like when I did get, I think it was the 7th of August, got a quick email from kind of the deputy head of the gynae department to say, can you just let us know which hospital all these procedures were at, because we haven't got a record of it here.
Wow. And I'm just curious, like, at what point did they go missing? At what point have they been?
Who knows, Samantha? Who
knows? Trying to like do.
Yeah, I've absolutely no idea.
It's very disturbing, and more so that so many people are like me too. Like that is
not just, and it's not a one-off. And then I think even more reason that we need to keep having these sorts of conversations, right, and raising awareness, because again, on that account, what I'm seeing is so many of us have been told this is normal. Like so many of us are fighting to get pain relief because we're not being listened to. So many of us are having our records ignored. So many of us are not being offered treatment. So many of us are just being told it's all in our head. So many of us are being told it's normal. And it's just not. But again, a lot of the women that are on the, like a 60-something, I think 62-year-old woman commented the other week to say, I've basically been shamed about this my entire life. And now I feel seen at 62. Like,
Heart
it like breaks my heart to think that so
yeah,
many of us have had to go through this in silence. And I also think what's in some ways kind of helped me a lot of the stuff that I've started sharing, I wouldn't be sharing if it weren't for that account.
no,
Because again, that you think, firstly, like, who's going to care, but you also think there is still stigma, and there is still shame, and there is still all of that stuff. But even, I mean, we know, like, I'm a huge advocate for all of the stuff that I do anyway, from a work perspective. Like, this is personal, and it feels personal, and I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I definitely need a bit more energy, so we'll wait and see what happens after my op. But I'm not going to stay quiet on this one
no,
anymore, because there are just too many of us that are suffering in silence, and just being fobbed off. And we need. I just know I need to keep fighting this. At the minute, I don't have the energy to kind of do
no.
it. But I think post op, once I've kind of had that and got the recovery, like, I'm not staying quiet on this one.
No.
So
There
the NHS
there
better
is
watch
something
out.
brewing.
There is, the NHS better watch out, because
Yeah.
I am coming from.
I'm mindful of our time. I just wanted to ask one last thing.
Yeah,
So I started this because I wanted it to be the bloody truth behind why we're not talking about periods at work. And I think well, there's so many things about your story that's interesting, but I think also the fact that you have come from an HRD role where you continued the same language that you
yeah,
had been fed from a really young
yeah,
age to
yeah.
now being on the other side. Like, uh, what would you say? I mean, workplaces really do need to acknowledge this. It's not, I feel like we're having a lot of conversations around menopause, and that's hugely important, and I don't take away from that at all. But there is so much that happens before menopause from 10 years old
Yeah,
that needs to be
yeah,
acknowledged, supported in the workplace, that it's not just a period, it's not just hormones.
yeah.
Workplaces really, really do need to set up and listen. I guess, what would you say to, like, anyone who was like past you, or workplaces that are not acknowledging this?
I think, like, we can't ignore it again. Like, if you've got if you've got equal numbers in terms of gender in your workplace, right? At least 50% of your workforce are experiencing this, and it's impacting more. And it wasn't until when I kind of came. It was when I came out of in-house HR. I did a blog about it. I think it was called Periods, Pregnancy, and something else. To basically, like, that was like my public apology, right, to everybody that I had ever, in my head, I would never do it as a professional, but in my head,
Mhm.
shaming the women that were like, I need to take some time off my period, because it was like I'm in the wrong with this one because of what I have experienced for 20 years of my life. Every single workplace needs education and awareness on this stuff. And because actually, particularly because, kind of 28-day cycles, I know you're brilliant in terms of your cycle tracking, and still do all of my cycle tracking and all of that sort of stuff. I know the week where I'm most productive. I know the week where I am, I need to hibernate. I know the week where I'm a little bit more reflective. I know the week where I'm more social. I can track all of that and do what I'm needing to do. But again, when we understand that, if we understand much more of those rhythms and cycles, we are effective all month, but in completely different ways.
Yes.
And if we tapped into that from a workplace
Mhm.
perspective, we would be so much more productive and so much more effective. But actually, even for us, like when we're having a bleed week, when we're, whatever stage we're at in our cycle, if we tune into that energy more, we can be effective, and probably still more effective than a lot
Yeah.
of our other colleagues. Like, we're not incapable because we bleed. We're not hormonal just because we bleed. It's not, oh, it must be that time of the month, because we're speaking up and using our voices. We've got
Mhm.
to stop a lot of the kind of sexist and misogynistic comments that, like, oh, she must be on a period. Just
Yep.
because I'm being vocal in a meeting, right, doesn't mean I am hormonal. it means I am speaking up in a meeting. And like, we need the education, the awareness, the understanding needs to be in all schools, in all colleges, in every single workplace. And then you can start to feed into some of the menopause conversations. But as you say, right, we cannot ignore this conversation. Many of us are experiencing and living it. And for those of us like me that then have got more difficulties, more challenges, more illnesses, all of that sort of stuff, we need support. And I will say, however many years ago when we first started talking about it, I remember seeing it on This Morning, maybe kind of 2011, 2012, the talk of period leave. And again, I can remember going through the roof, right? Women, because I was like, women have already been, you know, kind of silenced for long enough, and we're still fighting for equality. And now, like, this will set us back years. Now I'm the biggest advocate. Portugal are already, we're doing the 3-day menstrual leave. Menstrual leave needs to be a thing, right? It needs to be in your policies. It needs to be whatever. And for somebody like me that is irregular bleeding, that is heavy bleeding, those 3 days are not just a once a month thing. So the awareness and education has to start now. It should have started 20 years ago, 30 years ago, but it has to be in place now. So if you're not doing it, get in touch with Samantha and get yourself some sessions booked. There you go.
Thank you. That I all of me is just like, yes, all of these things. And I hope people listen, because, you know, if somebody's being ignored by their GP, you would hope at least that they could find solace in the support around them, their friends, community, obviously, but more important, their workplace, to help make those times just a little bit easier.
I hope so.
Thank you so much, Kelly.
You're very welcome.
Sharing your story. I know there's been so many lovely comments from everyone on the way. It's just so important to just keep sharing this, and I'm very grateful for your time.
You are very welcome. I'm pleased you're doing it right. You're the one raising the awareness.
Well, yes, let's keep going. And also, just a quick side note, the algorithm does not like that I talk about periods, vaginas, cervical mucus, and bleeding. If you could please go to my profile and hit my bell for notifications, that would be great, because it's really stung me recently.
It doesn't like mine either, and I talk about burnout.
Yeah, we need to like keep raising our voices and supporting each other, the people that are trying to do the work, like Kelly, like myself, like so many other amazing people that you know, we know in the HR world as well. We need to support each other and not be silenced.
We're not shutting up, right? We're just going onto different platforms and finding voices there. Yes,
exactly. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for listening, everyone.
And I will see you next time. See you later.